Folks at home, this is the March, what is today, second meeting of the Public Works and Planning of Rutherford County. Need to read this short disclaimer. This meeting of the Rutherford County Planning and Purchasing meeting is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order number 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Blair.
Second.
And a second. And this will also act as roll call.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. Thank you. And again, welcome everybody. Rachel, do we have minutes?
Yes. They're on the SharePoint.
Okay, great. Thank you, SharePoint. I would like to call on Vice Chair Piercy to report on those minutes.
I have looked over the minutes and they seem to be in order. I do move for their approval.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Would like to ask now for the Highway Department report, and they are virtual. So, Mary and gang, you are live.
Good evening, everyone. We have two things tonight. We will do, you should see a waiver of damages for Shores Road. And that is where we are going to give some right-of-way that was abandoned when the Shores Road realignment happened recently back to the adjacent property owners. There's only two property owners involved, one on one side and one on the other. They both signed this, they both requested it. It's where the road used to exist and now it's just a strip of grass. So it's something we've done before here. This waiver for damages is what we use to sometimes disperse of abandoned right-of-way.
Mr. Chairman, I'm familiar with this, and having read it, and I see that it's already signed and unanimously brought to us by the road board, I make a motion to approve this waiver.
All right. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a second. Any more discussion? Rachel, go ahead and call roll.
Chairman Piercy?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Brooks, that has been approved. Your next item?
The second thing is a budget amendment. This is where we're moving some money internally in our budget to cover some of the overtime that we encountered during the recent ice and snow event. This is, like I said, this is just moving around money internally in our existing budget.
All
I
right.
move to approve his request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And before we vote, Superintendent Brooks, it looks like we had about how many hours of overtime? I'm just trying to let the audience.
It was a little over 900 hours combined overtime.
And that was, and is that was 100% weather related?
Yes.
Okay. I just want the people at home to know that your department was very busy because of the several days of ice and snow. All right?
As you would imagine, this represents several hours of snowplow operation, as well as a lot of tree and debris removal. So that's what it was primarily.
Well, on behalf of this committee, we thank you, and I'm sure on behalf of the constituents, they also thank you for your diligence and your extra hours of keeping everybody safe. Roll call, please.
Mr.
Chairman, I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Greg, is a lot of this overtime from you spreading salt on the roads as well?
Absolutely.
So do you need more money to replenish our salt supply?
No, we always build money into our annual operating budget to, cover what could happen to our salt reserve. And we were able to order some salt and have received that salt. Oddly enough, I was surprised that we would get it that fast, but as widespread as this event was, but we're okay right now. Obviously, when we bring our new budget, we'll have new money in there starting July the 1st.
Okay. Good. Anybody else? Questions? Roll call.
Commissioner P.,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, team?
That's all we have.
All right.
Is there anybody questions? They got any?
Everybody good? Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Tanya, how about building codes report?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing? All right. I know, right? I'm going to go over the monthly report first, and then I will present Building Code's 21-22 budget for you. So our monthly report for the month of February, we had, obviously we had a few days off because of the weather, so we had a total of 15 working days in February. And during those 15 days, we issued 326 permits. 88 of those were single-family dwellings. That was up significantly from this time last year, sorry. Total revenue of $139,890, and this time last year it was $101,490. It was comparable to last month. January had a few more working days, but we averaged about 5 to 6 single-family dwellings per work day. So this time last year, we're about on track, same as we were by this time last year before COVID hit. This time last year, we had a total of 599 single-family dwellings obtained at this point, and this year we have 682. So it's up a little bit. Anybody have any questions on building permits? Our inspections were a little over 1,300 with just a tad over 7,000 miles driven. All right, and if not, I'll move on to development tax. Development tax, we collected $498,750 for a total accumulative total for this year, fiscal year, for 4.2 million, just a little over 4.2 million. So that gap between what we've collected this year to date and to date this time last year is closing. If you'll remember, in November and December and even January, that gap was fairly significant. I think it was up around 900,000, and now we're down to, that gap's about 250 at this point. Okay, if there's no more questions on that, I'll move on to zoning. And zoning, we had 100 inspections in the month of February.
Still pretty busy in spite of half the working days.
It is very
And a
busy.
short month on top of that.
It is very busy. We don't stop from the minute we open the door till we close them at 4:15.
All right, any questions for Tanya on those reports? If none, we need a motion to approve the 3.
Move to approve.
And we'll need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd, Commissioner Harris, Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Tanya, we've all been waiting for this.
All right, here we go. So I'm just going to go down through it line item by line item, and if you have any questions, please stop me and I'll ask them. You should all have a copy of both the budget worksheet and also a narrative by line item in your package. If you have any questions or anything throughout this, please feel free to stop me. So county official, administrative, there is no change there. Deputies, there is no change. You'll notice on our clerical line item, the personnel, there is a significant increase, an increase of a little over $70,000. So the reason for that is currently we have 2 part-time employees that we use for a couple of hours every day. I anticipate that we are going to go, if we go to this different method of collecting tax, that if that happens sometime in fiscal year 22-23, that's obviously going to take up some more time and resources in our admin staff, because we're going to go from 1 development tax collection to 2 per single-family dwelling. So I am going to dedicate one of my current full-time employees to that task and bring on the 2 part-timers to full-time. One of those full-time positions will fill her current full-time position that she will vacate and totally dedicate to development tax, or tax, sorry. And then the other full-time position will continue to do the duties that the 2 part-timers are doing right now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
so this personnel change, which I'm all for it, but what if this bill doesn't pass?
Then we wouldn't use it. We would leave them as...
But
Yep.
all you're doing is just trying to prepare?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We would not implement this until the development tax actually passed.
Okay.
So that left the part-time line item as obviously a decrease. That went to 0. And I'll scoot all the way down to communication, 307, because everything in between is out of my control. Communication did not change. Dues and membership, I reduced that by $600 this year just because we've had an excess of over $600 for the last few years that we haven't used, so I reduced that. Maintenance agreements, that is $92,000. $90,000 of that $92,000 is for the software package that we share also with planning and engineering and the stormwater departments and building codes. That is the annual maintenance fees for those. The other $2,000 is our copiers and stuff. Postage, there is no change. Printing and stationery, there's no change. Travel, we reduced that from 6 to 4, simply because obviously nobody traveled this past budget year. And I actually didn't reduce it. I moved 2,000 of it to in-service because we find ourselves, for our continuing education, we found ourselves doing a whole lot of webinars, online classes that we had to pay for. So I moved it over there because I anticipate that this next year is not going to be much the same. Other contracted services. This line item, we have never had anything in this before until last year. And I don't know if you'll recall, but last year I asked for $30,000 in this line item to try and take care of some vacant and dilapidated properties throughout the county. And I am happy to report that having the tools in my toolbox, having this money in this line item, gave me the ability to send letters to these folks. I had 3 properties in mind that I was going to address this year. And it allowed me to say to these folks, okay, now I'm deadly serious. If you don't get this taken care of, we are going to set it out to bid. And I had the money to do it. So I could do it legally and officially. I could send them a letter that said, and 2 out of 3 of those, we addressed them one at a time. And out of the 3 of them, we're on the 3rd one right now, but the 2 that we've already addressed cleaned it up by themselves. They took the letter seriously and ended up recruiting family members and whomever else, money from I don't know where, and cleaned the property up. So far we haven't had to use any of that money, and I really hope that number 3 is going to go the same way. However, so I hope to be able to turn all of that back into the general fund this year. However, I would like to keep it in my line item just as a tool to use in the future, just so that if I do have to use it, it's there. And I'd be glad to answer any questions on that line item if anybody has any. Nope, I'll continue.
Continue.
Yes.
The mayor has a question. Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
425, gasoline, no change. Office supplies, no change. Uniforms, no change. Other supplies and materials, no change. In-service and staff development is an increase of 2,000. That's the 2,000 that I took out of travel. And that will cover the cost of online classes and books and that type of stuff for continuing education. Other supplies and nope, data processing equipment, 709. That went from 2 to 10. We had adopted or acquired a 12-year-old scanner from planning about 3 years ago when we were digitizing all of our records. And it was old then, but we have since used it to digitize probably 400 or 500 copies of plans and prints that we've had laying around the office for years and just didn't have the storage space for them. However, that has finally, it's on its last legs, and OIT have told me that the company will not support Windows 10. There's no driver available for it for Windows 10, and apparently OIT is converting all of our computers throughout our network, throughout the county to Windows 10, so they will not allow us to hold on to this. We can't anyway. So the extra $8,000 in there, I've gotten several quotes, anywhere from 5 to 8. So I really hope that that's going to be closer to 5, but I put 8 in there just in case for a large format scanner and printer. Alrighty, and finally, but not least, vehicles. I have 3 lease vehicles in this line item. We haven't purchased any in the last couple of budget years. Building Codes has a fleet of 11 vehicles. 10 of those vehicles are on the road every day, all day. They're used by either building inspectors or zoning inspectors. There's 1 vehicle that I drive and that we use to go to classes and stuff that's not used as much. But those vehicles average about 18,000 miles a year. And we have 5 that are high mileage vehicles. So I asked for 3 this year because I would really like to get into a rotation of purchasing or leasing 1 vehicle a year so that we can continue to keep our vehicles current. Our highest mileage vehicle's got 210,000 on it. The next one's 180, and two of these 5, by the way, are two-wheel drive and not four-wheel drive. So they don't really do us that much good anyway. So I'm asking for 3, but I will take whatever I can get. If I can start a rotation and do 1 a year from here on out, I would be happy with that. And it sounds like somebody's going to pipe in. I hear somebody's mic turn on.
Wait till you're through.
Sorry?
I'll wait till you're through.
Oh, I'm done. That's it.
Mr. Chairman.
Do I recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have reviewed this budget. We are going to look for anything that we can find, the smallest four-wheel drive. She said she needs four-wheel drive to get in some of the construction areas. We're going to look for the smallest four-wheel drive we could possibly get. It doesn't have to be a truck. She doesn't need that. We just need some small four-wheel drive car. So we're looking at that. I know that Mr. Mitchell over at Property Assessors, he's got a couple of Jeeps, but we're checking on those to see if they are four-wheel drive. They may be just two-wheel drive. If not, we'll continue to look. Other than that, outside, I've asked every department head to keep their budgets flat this year going in. But so what her budget in comparison to last year, and you'll see on all the other budgets, when it comes to the hospitalization, major medical, the pensions, everything else, our hospitalization, major medical, dental, and vision, that's at a higher number than what we're actually going to see. Right now, we just plugged in for those numbers. So we'll readjust those numbers. So her budget will actually, and all other budgets, will come down. It's not going to be 10% increase. We just went with the number to give to them so we could start this process. But other than that, I think it's a good budget. She's done a great job of keeping up with the growth, and she runs a very professional office over there. So I would make a recommendation for approval on her budget.
No?
Mr. Chairman, and I just want to, I think I heard you say it did go up 2.24%, and you're saying the bulk of that is an anticipated increase in medical and benefits.
That is correct. You'll see that in all budgets, Commissioner. But we're going to see those numbers come down, we feel. A couple of percentage points anyway.
It's really not in our department, but so I understand with COVID, we're going to have, our claims are way up. So do you have that number? Is it 2.2% or is it more than that?
It's more than that. Yes, sir.
That's going to be the big thing that's going to hurt.
That's going to be the biggest issue that this commission will address before we set the final budget, is what the cost is going to be for us. We had one COVID patient who busted our cap for expenditures and went well over $800,000 for one patient. So that's driving our rates, which we have no choice but to pay it. But the insurance committee is massaging those numbers right now, and we'll be prepared probably this time next month. You'll have a pretty good idea of what those numbers are going to look like, but it's not going to be 10%.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other questions, I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion? Second. And a second. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call to approve her budget. For the
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. Tanya, anything else you need to report?
No, that's it.
All
All right. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Doug, let's do planning and engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. We have several items for your consideration tonight. The first is just the report of the available lot inventory. That is on your iPads. You'll notice with this month through the end of February, I should say, of this year, our total available lot inventory stands at 872. Again, that means those are the lots that are recorded on the ground, ready for building permits. That's actually down about 51 lots from last month, which was 923. We didn't see as many of our larger plats being recorded in the month of February. Of course, that kind of goes back, first of all, the time of year. Second of all, that we were also off for a week there for everything going on. So I don't anticipate that continuing. I know there's several out there that we're just waiting for at this point, so I would anticipate this number to continue to fluctuate. But as building permit information and those obtaining building permits remain strong, you'll see this number continue to kind of fluctuate in this particular range. So if there's no questions on that, I will go over to our zoning report. We don't have any rezonings for your consideration next week. What we do have are a couple of zoning ordinance amendments. One to our accessory dwelling unit ADU section and another to our major home-based business. I've included both of those amendments on your iPads. Just a real quick overview. We did present proposed amendments to these standards at the Planning Commission's January 25th meeting of this year. The change to the accessory dwelling units involves an increase to the area percentage for a by right attached accessory dwelling unit. Right now it's 25%, so if the attached accessory dwelling unit is going to be more than 25%, they'd have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. We're just proposing to bump that up to 50%. And also clarifying the language of enforcement of architectural characteristics in those regulations. The change for major home-based businesses just allows the Board of Zoning Appeals to make better case-by-case decisions on things like the number of employees, business vehicles, customer-client visits, those kind of things. Right now, there's pretty much a hard and fast limit on those, but every now and again we'll run into one that might have just a little bit more than what's allowed in the regulations, and we do allow that kind of latitude to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the size of accessory structures that can be operated for the home-based business. Minors are limited to 500 square feet. Majors can go above that. So this was really just put this in the same classification as we do it for accessory space size. So that's really the changes that we had. We did have a public hearing on both of these items at the Planning Commission in February, on February 8th, and both of those were approved unanimously. So I hope I was clear in that. I'd be more than happy to answer more questions as far as those amendments are concerned. If not, that's our report, and then we'll move on to the budget.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the item on that would be under line item 103, which figures in a new EIT, engineering training. Is that correct?
Well, yes.
On his budget. He hadn't got to his budget yet.
But that is correct. But yeah.
Any questions on the report? Seeing none, we want to go ahead and need a motion and a second to approve this portion of the report.
Motion to approve the budget, the report, rather. Motion to approve the Planning Commission report.
Second.
And a second from Chairman P.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Doug, continue.
Yes, thank you very much. And Mike is also going to be, we're kind of playing a tag team here on our budgets. We're happy to present to you the 2021, fiscal years 2021-22 planning and engineering and also stormwater budgets for your consideration tonight. Since I'm up here, we'll go ahead and start off with our planning and engineering budget. For the most part, as Mayor Ketron had alluded to a little earlier, this is a flat budget. We really haven't made a whole lot of changes. I will call your attention to a couple of the major ones. First of all, at the bottom of the report, for planning and engineering, you'll see in red at the bottom, total monetary increase from previous budget year and the percentage increase. The vast majority of that is going to come out of the assistance line item, as Mayor Ketron stated a little earlier, line item 103 under assistance. Most of those figures are remaining the same with the step increases in there and everything, but we are also asking for a new position for the engineering department, which would be an engineer in training, an EIT. So most of the costs that you're going to see, most of the increase you're seeing on here do take into account that position, be it the salaries, also the benefits along with that. As you all have seen from the reports that I make every month, as well as Chairman Cush, who's on the Planning Commission, the amount of activity that we see building-wise, be it for site plans or plats for new subdivisions and developments, is not slowing down and has not slowed down for quite some time. Quite frankly, it's everything we can do to keep up with the growth that we are seeing right now. So what we are asking for is another engineer on staff to help review, which are really, when it comes to the subdivision development, is really the meat of what we're looking at when it comes to the drainage calculations, when it comes to the drainage of those subdivisions, how that interplays, to make sure that we're not affecting adjacent property owners. That takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and Mike and Sheila do a wonderful job at that. They're very good at it, but there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many people, and the county's not slowing down any. So that's one of the big reasons why we're still asking for that position. Mike, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that? Okay. We've sat down with Mayor Ketron and also Deputy Steve Sandlin, and also our Finance Director, Lisa Nolan, gone over this budget and explained our reasons behind that. Most of the other changes you're seeing in here, really, we added some increased funds for our legal notices with COVID-19 and the language we have to put into there. We have had, you'll recall, a few months back, we did have to move a little bit more money into that line item. So we've just planned for that and put a little extra into the legal notices line item. So, but most everything else on here besides that position that you see on here, you can look through here, and most of this is going to remain unchanged or just raised slightly, like when it comes to Social Security, pensions, and those kind of things. So I'll be happy to answer any questions, and Mike also will be happy to answer any questions on this budget.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, you are recognized, Mr. Mayor.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And members, it was explained, you're going to be looking for someone basically coming right out of college that we can actually start using and training this person. That's why the salary is where it is. But other than that, I even though it's higher, but you know, these the hospitalization major medical went from 119 to 330. You know, that's figured at about a 10% bump. As like I said a minute ago, we'll probably see our numbers actually settle in at between 7 and 8% increase. But I recommend this budget, including the engineering and training.
All right. I would like to just make one comment. I have been involved in the Planning Commission for at least a dozen years, and all those years the planning and stormwater group has come with a very lean budget. Doug and his predecessor have done a fantastic job in keeping costs low. They never ask, well, let me rephrase that. They only ask for things that they really need. They never really go out there and ask for wants. They're just always asking for needs. I don't know really how they hold the place together, but I just want to commend Doug and Mike on continually operating the way they do and watching out for the county's money. I just want to give you guys a pat on the back, because in my 12 years involved with being a part of that budget process about this much, it always puts a big smile on my face that you guys really come in with a really low request So I want to thank you for that, and the citizens should thank you for that. So I think we have a motion. No, we're looking for a motion. Mike, is there anything you needed to add before we go to vote?
Thank you, Chairman Cush. Like Doug's eloquently said, we have been inundated with unprecedented growth in the county, and we're just looking for help on the engineering side. We've got several things that we do. We oversee construction of new subdivisions. We review construction plans, site plans, everything to make sure that they conform with the county's regulations. And we go above and beyond. We look at helping different departments with concept plans, designs, other things that we have to, if we did not, we would have to farm this out to hire consulting engineers. I've got a background of design as a design engineer, so I bring that to the county. But with all the hats and all the duties that we provide, there's not enough time in the day to do everything we need to do. So with the growth that's happening everywhere, hiring an engineer with 5-10 years is going to be near impossible. So we're looking to hire someone right out of school and train them. So that's what we're asking for. We have enough vehicles. We have enough space. We have enough money for computers and phones and things like that. So we're just asking for an additional engineer.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to support this budget, and I can support hiring a new employee despite the fact that we're going through some lean times, because in addition to what you said, Mike and Doug, the duties that are cast upon you by the state, by the feds, I've witnessed how much y'all have to do to maintain the mandates from those outside organizations. So just that alone, to me, justifies the need. So I'll make a motion to support this budget, if the mayor concurs.
I do concur.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Got an email. I think we all received an email from Mr. Mitchell today, and was saying that we had added 3,500 single-family homes to the tax roll this year, and I thought that's amazing. 3,500 single-family homes.
Driving around my district, I feel like 2/3 of them are in my district. I mean, seriously. And half of those are probably in my subdivision. But anyway. All right, roll call, please. Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
And Mike will do the stormwater budget. Oh, sorry. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to look at your budget, so I apologize. I should have asked this earlier. You had available lots. You said we're down 50 from what we was last year.
From last month.
Yes.
Last month.
How many have you approved coming up? Because I know right now that we have an inventory problem right now to where we're going to see, I'm assuming that we're going to see skyrocket of new starts.
In the, excuse me, the report that I have my available lot inventory on, the first, I guess that's 5 pages of that is lots that are recorded and currently ready for building permits. There's a second report in there, it's called, the first page of it says subdivision plats not recorded. And if you scroll to the end of that, it's a 3-page report. If you scroll to the end of that, these are subdivision lots that are somewhere in the approval process. They've had preliminary approval, final plat approval, they're somewhere, but they haven't been recorded yet, and that's a little over 4,000 lots. 4,091 is what we're looking at right now. So these are subdivisions that, correct, they're in the pipeline somewhere, and we're just waiting for them to swing by our office with a Mylar to be recorded for a final plat or something like that.
That's substantially higher than normal.
Yeah, it is. There's a couple of larger subdivisions. I mean, and quite frankly, you recall late last year where we looked at the Harmony development on the Burgess property. That's 1,100 lots. And when they bring that in, and we've already been talking to them about them making a submittal here probably in the near future, you'll see that number go up even higher than that, because all the preliminary plan will be for the entire master plan development. So this number has normally fluctuated somewhere around 3,500-ish to 4,000 in that range. But it's slowed down just a little bit. Over the last few months, we haven't seen as many preliminary plans come in, but that'll change. You know, like I said, this number will go up pretty high before too long. Did that answer your question as far as what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
You looking for some property, are you, Mr. Harris?
Say now's the time.
I would indeed. You are recognized.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Cush. Commissioners, on your iPad, there is the stormwater management budget. And if you will take note, there are items in red that are different from last year. So starting from the top and 169, we are proposing to add $9,600 to the part-time personnel line item, and that is to allow us, what we typically do, we hire 3 to 4 summer interns, summer apprentices to help us meet TDEC's requirements. We have to walk the streams and take note of any pollutants or irregularities in the stream. This is something that we have to do every year and keep track of to meet TDEC's requirements. And they typically work for 12 weeks out of the year. But what we'd like to do would be to add a part-time person year-round. And one of those 4 people would stay on and help with erosion inspections, stormwater inspections, things that take a lot of time, but somebody right out of, in college or something like that with the proper training could handle that. So to offset that, what we've done in line item 399, we have just completed our 5-year cycle with TDEC, their review cycle, and I should say that we have passed with flying colors thanks to our assistant county engineer, Sheila Huffmeyer, who did a great job preparing for that 5-year audit. But what I was able to do is we've reduced that number about $6,000 because we have finished this cycle year, and we will eventually in the following years have to pick that back up. But this year, we will not have to do that. And on 425, we have added some money to gas. That's just a guesstimate, and my gut feeling says that gas is going to go up. So I wanted to be able to cover that. And then also another offset at 499, other supplies and materials, we have reduced our that amount to $9,600, down from $11,000. So we've all said and done, it's a monetary increase of a little over $4,800, which is like a 1.8% increase. So with the little bit of moving around, we think we can, get it pretty much to what it was last year.
All right.
Questions for me, I guess.
So you want a new position, and you got only an increase of 1%?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll speak for most of these commissioners. That's a very good job.
Thank you.
I'm appreciative of that.
Yes, sir. Right. So like I said, erosion prevention, sediment control, that's one of the tasks that we're required to do. during construction site, during the building of the infrastructure, but also during home construction, when the builders get in and start, constructing vertically, building the houses. So just more boots on the ground would help us tremendously. And working 18, 20 hours a week, another college kid would work wonders for us.
And Chairman Harris, as Commissioner Dodd alluded to a minute ago, most of these items in red are a direct correlation to TDEC requirements that these things be done. So our hands are tied in that respect.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I had asked Mike if he needed another kayak. And so we gave him 2 kayaks last year, and
we've got some money for kayaks this year. So
they're money for kayaks, and so they'll be able to paddle down the stream and look at the waterways as opposed to having to walk on the side and possibly get snake
bit.
Look for the
brush. So
exactly. So, but I recommend this budget, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve this budget.
All right.
Thank you.
We have a motion. We need a second.
Second.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, Mac.
Good evening. How are y'all? We are still in hard times, I guess. Different times would probably be the better word. Rutherford County Solid Waste was shut down almost a week this month. We actually worked the Saturday and the Sunday that the snow, or not the snow, but the ice started. No accidents, no injuries. The centers weren't that busy, but we kept them open and we worked. When we finished Sunday, I took the calls and I looked to see, it's going to be a holiday Monday. Didn't have a lot to do, so I decided we'd take the day off. Monday afternoon, I talked to the mayor. We're going to be off Tuesday. Okay, so I come back in on Monday and I dispatched for Tuesday. We had 45 loads to haul Monday. I dispatched those same 45 loads Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We finally started hauling loads. And it wasn't too bad. The centers were still a little bit on the slick side, still had some snow and ice. Saturday, they cleaned up a little bit. Saturday afternoon, it was a whole lot better. Sunday, here they came. And then last week was Christmas all over again. But we kept up with it. So looking at the landfill reports normally first, you can see that we weren't very busy. We were actually closed all 5 days at the landfill. We did bring in the landfill mechanic to help us work on some stuff, but Yolanda was off. Then you can see by the ticket report that it wasn't very busy there either. Commissioner P requested to see what we were spending on vendors. So the next few pages there is what we actually paid every vendor out of both landfill budgets, the active budget and the post-closure budget. Is there any questions on the landfill? No questions on that so far?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I had questioned.
Not on the budget yet.
Not on the budget? Go ahead. I apologize. I'm too anxious to get into it.
Okay.
Which ones are the vendors, all those Rutherford County Government Account Analysis, those pages are the vendors?
Yes.
That say account analysis?
That tells who we paid and how much we paid them. Did that
No, I don't see Melton on here. We
Yes,
not
sir.
use them?
Yes, sir, he's on there.
Page.
Next to the last.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Any other questions on that?
Yeah, can you remind me who Caldwell Environmental Solutions is?
That's Becky, that's our consultant helping us through the RFP process.
Got her new name.
Good on that? Okay, the next page, June 30 of this year is when the heavy equipment contract expires. We've always done it as a one-year agreement with 4 one-year extensions. We're in that 5th year. That's the Melton contract. You will see there, that's when we bid it the last time, which was almost 5 years ago now. We had 3 bidders. Those are the bidders, and that's the prices that they proposed. So probably next month, we'll need to start the bidding process to get these out for bid again, so we'll be able to award them before the end of June of this year. Any questions on that?
How will that be advertised, Mac?
We advertise it in the paper and things like that, and the way we normally do, we'll try to put it out to some of the construction industry type people. The way ours is always done in the past, a lot of those big boys are not quite interested in ours. And I think that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Chairman.
Yeah, just a quick question for Mac there. When you put that proposal out, I'd like to see exactly what we're putting out for a proposal for bids and how that's bid. You know, personal feelings are we're spending too much money on a pretty much closed landfill over there.
So your request is to see a draft of the bid document before it goes out?
That's correct.
All right.
Not a problem.
Will do.
We've used the same one and ever since we've done it, so.
All right.
One other question, Mac.
Yes, sir.
Do we allow the people that have that bid to, or do we allow the availability of any county-owned equipment for them to use? For instance, that bulldozer we got.
No, sir. We still have an old bulldozer and a backhoe and an old farm tractor and a bush hogger too. But no, sir, they use their own equipment.
You got a 2003 bulldozer, what, D7?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's pretty new equipment to me. What was that, about $400,000 piece of equipment?
I don't know. It was bought before I came here. I came in 08.
All right. Thank you.
That's all I have on the landfill. You want to go to the convenience center budget, or not budget, but report?
Mac, before you do that, tell me again when that contract expires for that earthwork.
End of June of 2021.
Okay.
The contract started July 1st.
Okay.
Of 16.
All right.
You know, all right. Ready to go to the convenience center budget? Or not budget, but report?
Sure.
Okay, the convenience centers were actually closed. They were closed on Mondays and Thursdays anyway, so they were closed Tuesday, Wednesday. We did open them on Friday. It was still a little bit slick, but we kept on hauling. And then the centers got busy last week because we were closed. One of the things that hurt us a little bit was we didn't have a choice, but we had to close because Middle Point was closed all those days. So they did open back up on Friday. That Friday, most of the trucks that were in there dumping were their trucks, their private hauling company trucks, our trucks, and the city of Murfreesboro trucks. Most of the other big contractors didn't haul. But if you look at the last page of the report that shows you the activity over the years for the convenience centers, shows you the year, each month, the compacted trash versus the open top trash. We were closed for a week in February. And if you look in February, we hauled almost as much trash, the same as we did the year before, even after being closed for a week. So we were a little bit busy. Any questions on that part? Last month, we were talking about the little building in Eagleville. We were actually leasing that building. That was a building that they were ready to get out of service. So that's the reason our lease on it is a little less than most. I was asked how much we were paying. I said roughly $400 a month. I was close. It's $377.06 is our monthly rent. If we want to purchase that building that's there, that shows you the price that they would sell us that building that's currently there. Any questions on that? Okay. Next thing you'll see is where we're going to do a authorization and send it to the mayor's office. When we did the household hazardous waste collection, they failed to charge us for all the items that we had, so there's another $1,242.06 that need to be paid. If they had put it all together and sent it, we had a $50,000 budget, and it was less than $55,000, so you could go 10% over. So we could have paid it all at that time, but we've closed out that purchase order. And also, so we could run and do the authorization through the mayor's office, but I wanted y'all to be aware that it actually wound up costing us more than what we thought it did. The $54,691.61 was what the entire thing was for. Any questions on that? The next thing we need to vote on separately, so that's the end of my reports.
All right. All right, gentlemen, any questions on those reports before we entertain a motion?
Question.
Yes, sir, you are recognized.
The 2003 dozer that you have on the landfill, how long has it been since it's been used for landfill purposes?
It was down all last year. We bought trying to save some money, we bought a used roller, track roller on the nose there, put it on, and it had a 90-day warranty. The warranty was up before we realized that it had a leaking seal. So it's been parked just about all year now, and then this year we put another one on it.
So it's roughly 17, 18 years old?
Yes, sir.
Are the tracks and rollers wore out on both sides?
No, sir.
Still pretty good shape?
Yes, sir.
Reckon is it a case or cat?
It's cat.
Reckon you could get somebody from cat to come and look at it and give you an idea of what it would cost to put it back up to tip-top working condition?
We can do that, but we don't use it much. I don't know if we want to spend the money on it is where I'm going.
Well, if it's a well enough dozer to use, it might be worth spending the money on to get it up in real good shape to use it. We don't want to start trying to use a dozer that's been sitting for at least a year and not know what else will break, and that will give us something to compare what the contractors are going to bid to furnish a dozer and other equipment versus us furnishing our own dozer and a man to operate it all the time. It'll be a comparison to look at.
Okay. Yeah, we can have somebody come give us an estimate. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I wonder if that's a piece of equipment that Greg Brooks's department could use.
He probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Got a
Big
commercial use. That's a lot of age. It's still probably got a lot of good use in it, but time's coming. Some money's going to be buried in it for repairs.
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve his report as presented.
All right.
Second. I'll second his motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second for the approval of the reports.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Thank you.
Before he goes any further, Mr. Chairman, I got one more comment. When they come and look about possible repairs on that dozer, you could also ask them what it would cost us to lease the equipment that's required for us to have there. And that'll give us something to compare a contract bid on, and then we'll know the man hours we'll have to run our own leased equipment also.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, next, what I have, and I hope y'all are in the same order, is Tennessee Department of Transportation Highway Beautification Office. Is that what you see the heading for? That's the litter grant. We have to apply for it every year. So this is the application that we would need to send in. So we need to request permission to apply for the grant, and then the mayor to be able to sign and do all those things that he has to do if it's approved. Toward the back, you'll see the budget sheet. It's the same amount that it has been. It's $113,200.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve and send forward to budget the litter grant.
All right. Motion to approve and a second.
And the next two things, this is off the state bids. Our copier fax machine in our office is 10 years old, and if you want to do multiple pages, the little feeder thing won't work. So I'm back there calling it names a lot. It's a flop-eared pencil neck geek is what I call it. But this is two proposals that would have to go through a contract process, so that would be for the mayor to sign as well. But it's a copy fax machine at our office here in town and at the landfill. We would purchase the equipment at our office here in town. At the landfill, we need to rent that equipment. What we've been doing in the past is buying the cheap office supply house stuff, because that dusty environment at the landfill, doesn't matter what type of equipment you put out there, it's not going to last long. So if we lease it, then it's their problem. So asking the permission to do a contract for two copy machines, one lease, one purchase.
I'm not seeing the amount for the purchase. I see the lease amount of $25 or $24.68.
$2,348.50.
Very bottom. Oh, okay. All right. There we go. Okay.
These are not fancy ones. They don't do all the collations and the stapling, and we don't need all that.
Yeah. All right. Any questions on those requests? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we do need to take a approval of the litter grant. Yeah, so we'll vote on the litter grant forward, and then we'll need a motion and a second on the expenditure. So this is for the litter grant.
Right. Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. Now, we need a motion for the request for a purchase and a lease of the two printers.
So moved.
Need a second. All right. Rachel?
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mac.
Next, what I have, and I don't know if it may be behind the budget on yours, because it didn't come in till late this afternoon, so we went ahead and attached it, is 2 letters from TDEC, and it's about the financial assurance on the closed landfill and the old C&D site and the old garbage site. And the financial assurance, they wanted us to split them out separately. TDEC got hung holding the bag on a landfill that went bankrupt in West Tennessee, so they're looking really closely. So Jeff Postel, our consultant, went through and did all the numbers and got with TDEC and made all this work out. So there's really very little change in what we currently have. We already have financial assurance, and this is just a few dollars less than what we already have on the books.
And what does this, do we have to put up any kind of a bond or anything, or is this just an update of an estimate of what it would cost for closure?
This is an update for y'all because this is a change. They work tied together, and TDEC requested us to do this.
Okay.
Each year we do a financial assurance, and y'all do the vote on it. There's actually no money anywhere for that. There's money in fund balance that would cover it, but there's no money actually budgeted for that.
Okay. This is just a what-if kind of a thing?
Yes.
Okay.
And the thing that kind of surprises me is on this it says to close our landfill is $750,000, roughly.
Okay.
So that's basically for information only.
Yeah. All right. So there's no need to motion this into the record?
I mean, you can motion it into the record, that'd be fine, but as far as trying to appropriate money, we've already done that. That'll come at a later date. The next time.
I think since this is new format and we have to split it into 2, I say we go ahead and vote.
Okay.
So let's get a motion to accept these letters into the archives. Going once, going twice. We have a motion from Shanto.
Second.
And a second. Thank you.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Are we ready for the solid waste budget?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mac, I was going through some, I don't know if I should do this here. I want to do it for budget. I was going through some of my notes and on the RFP, and I cannot find some, so I'm going to ask you if you can help me on some stuff. How many trips do we go to the landfill or an off-county location a day? Like how many?
I mean, loads?
Yes, sir.
Yesterday was 28, and that was 5 trucks. Today there was 7 trucks. I have not done the paperwork yet, but we're going to be somewhere close to 40.
Okay, and what's the estimated time for them to return? Like they start and then get back. What's the estimated time on that?
Talking about clocking in and clocking out time or per load time?
No, I want to know by the time they pick it up and the time they return, how long does that take?
That depends on the location.
I'm just saying to the landfill.
Right. We have what we call the 4 long loads, which would be Eagleville, Christiana Fosterville. We call it Epps Mill still, but it's actually Buchanan, and Rock Springs. So those are 2-hour round trips when the landfill is running pretty good. The last few days, the landfill has not been running pretty good.
And how long do they make you wait at the landfill?
We get to be able to dump, but last...
Get to go right through? Or?
No. We averaged 3.6 loads per driver per day yesterday. So they were sitting in the landfill for anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours wait.
An hour and a half. Okay. Well, let me tell you where I'm going.
Okay.
Is because I've been looking at the landfills and how long their longevity is, and some of the ones that are, I don't think close, but close, Smithville in that area, if we don't go with a Republic. So what I'm concerned with is if we had to go outside of a 100-mile radius, that would hurt us a lot.
We would need a transfer station. We don't.
Station, and you would need more trucks, am I correct?
You have a transfer station, our fleet of trucks would be okay. If we don't have a transfer station, then you would have to raise the fleet because you time travel. And to finish answering your question, like Leanna, I don't know if you know where the Leanna Center is on Sulphur Springs Road. It's a little less than an hour round trip. Las Casas is a little less than an hour. If the landfill's running really good, Walter Hill's 45 minutes. Weekly Lane is a little over, just barely over an hour. All the rest of the centers will run anywhere from 80 to 95 minutes.
Craig, can I piggyback just a sec?
Yes, sir.
If you did have a transfer station, we would have to purchase trucks and drivers from the transfer to its end use, correct?
You could purchase and do that yourself, or you can contract with private haulers to do that side of it as well.
It wouldn't be, yeah, it would be more trucks even from the transfer.
Just to give him an idea on the time spent waiting in line to dump, at one point last year, you know, you went and visited, toured the landfill, right? All the way to the top. You know how far it was from the scale house all the way to the top of the landfill. It was backed up from the top all the way down to Jefferson Pike and out to 231 Highway, more than one occasion. And several occasions it's backed out all the way to the Jefferson Pike. People having to wait to get to the top of the hill to be dumped out. I've heard drivers say 2.5 hours wanting nothing extra. You know, it was just, it'd take that long a lot of times.
Ready for budgets? Yep. Solid Waste Department actually has 5 separate budgets. The first one that you're looking at is the sanitation education budget, and that's where we run the litter crews. If you look at line 149, what we're asking to do is that had 2 full-time positions in it. We want to take one of those full-time positions that we haven't not been able to fill for quite some time and move it to line 189, and that would be a research assistant that would help do some of the education, the the APR report, some of those type of things. We've got a intern doing some of that stuff now, but we'd like to make that into a full-time position. So it's not adding one, it's just retitling one. And then we still have the part-time litter crew driver in there. And other than that, there's really not much change. The difference there in the litter grant budget, $33,960, I think is the right number, has to be spent on education and can't be spent on anything else. So that $26,000 plus in line 429, we added $5,000 there, $5,100. That together is where that money should be spent. Any questions on that budget?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back under 149, 169, one full-time, one part-time litter crew driver.
Mm-hmm.
Did we transfer that over to the Correctional Work Center?
The workhouse is doing the actual pickup. We've still got Tommy that's going and surveying the roads and letting them know where to go. You know, so that's where Tommy is, the full-time driver, and then we don't have a part-time.
So you don't have a part-time?
No, sir.
Under 169, 17,149.
Right, there's nobody in that line.
Okay. I'm lost. I'm showing 17,149, the request.
Yes.
So what is it?
The request is for the funding but we don't have anybody in it. And we don't really plan on putting anybody in it as long as we're still doing what we're doing with the way the workhouse is going.
Then,
So is the idea not to fill the part-time for 2021?
If things continue to work as they have with the workhouse doing the actual litter pickup on the street, then we won't need this position. But if something happens to where they won't be able to do it and we need to come back, then we'll still be able to pick it up and move on. But you are correct. Right now, there is no plan to fill that position.
So what is the communication between the workhouse as to what their plan is for 2021?
it's in their budget that was presented. Public safety will do that at the next meeting, but they've got 2 full-time crews. They took Mac's trailer that he had that was made out Rockville at the trailer manufacturer out there. They had one made just like that, so they have 2 full-time with porta potties on both. So their Commissioner Hammond is running one of them. I'm not sure who's running the other one. So do we actually need to leave that in this budget in case we need it, or do we subtract it from the 148?
Whatever you choose to do, either way. I mean, if right now we don't plan on using it, if something happens, we need it, then we'd just come and try to do a budget amendment to put it back in there. I mean, either way you want to go.
I would say let's just take it out and then we come back and ask for a budget amendment, Mr. Chairman.
That's what I would do.
Okay.
So you can strike that 17,149 from your total of 148,346?
Mac, I have a question on the one full-time recycle research assistant.
Mm-hmm.
What does that person do?
That's intended to do the educational piece of the litter grant. There's $33,960 that can be only spent on education and nothing else.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that memo in the file there somewhere. Okay. And I guess the question is, I guess the $27,000 in full-time doesn't compute to me. Can you get a full-time person to work for $27,000 a year?
That's what HR gave us, that number.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Chairman?
who's doing the education at this time?
Nobody.
Where are we spending that money that we're required to spend?
We're not going to capture all that money this year. We've got recycle coats that we're using. We can pay a little bit for that. So we use, TDOT allowed us to use part of the education funds for that. We've got a few other things that we're doing that they're allowing us to use for educational funds. They've relaxed a lot of it because of COVID things. You can't get into the schools like we used to. But we're not going to capture all those funds this year.
All right. All right. All right. Let's see. This was the one-page total now, Mac, for sanitation and education, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's adjust then the department request of the 148,346, reducing it by 17,149. And what is that total, Mayor?
131, 197.
131, 197.
It will actually be a little more than that, the benefits and stuff.
Benefits will be
okay.
subtracted
All
from
right.
that. Lisa can adjust that.
Yeah, all right.
I'll just put plus benefits.
Other than that.
And another,
Yes, Chairman P.
so with the proposed budget, we're keeping one position of the 2 drivers, which we're no longer driving, to go out and scout roads. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You don't think the workhouse could do that on their own?
They requested us to do that.
Okay.
Sounds like we need to have a little communication with the workhouse as to who's doing what to who.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I've got a problem with a full-time person just driving around finding out what roads need picking up. Most cases, I'm getting phone calls or I'm calling them saying, hey, this needs looking at over here. So I don't know. I can't see a full-time position just doing that, especially when we have sheriff's deputies all over the roads every day that could report back to the workhouse.
Right.
We have him do other things other than that as well. While he's out traveling supplies to the centers and things like that along the way.
I think I think communication is called for here on the with the workhouse. All right. Are we okay with the approval of the budget then with this amendment?
Yes, sir.
We just did. Yeah, with it. Just approval of the this particular one of 5 budgets, the sanitation and education budget amended to the new amount of whatever it was, 197 plus or minus
the subtraction of benefits.
Yeah. So I need a motion.
And that's down from 188,000 from last year, is that correct?
It was 188 amended budget last year, 188,875, now down to 131,197 plus some HR dollars.
A chunk down.
Well, you're no longer doing litter pickup.
Yeah.
And the associated costs with that. That's those 2 people plus the vehicles and upkeep on them. That's been passed on to the workhouse.
Yeah.
No, sir. Not completely. The workhouse bought 2 vans, 1 trailer. They're using one of our trailers. We still have a trailer and an old trailer, 2 vans and a spare van that we're probably going to surplus before too long.
Are you saying you're using them to pick up trash on the highways?
No, sir. That's not what I said. I said we still have them.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if y'all have seen me come to these meetings, but driving a white Nissan van, that's when we put the convenience center coordinator on, he took the pickup that I was driving, so that van's available, so that's what I drive when I need to go somewhere.
Chairman Cush.
Yes, sir.
3-4 years ago, the workhouse was under the direction of the mayor. Is it not still under the direction of the mayor now? You were talking about communication with the workhouse. You're still over the workhouse, more
Yes,
or
sir.
less?
That is correct, Commissioner.
You added any input to what they were trying to figure out, saying they needed to have a communication with the workhouse?
Well, this past year, I pulled Mac and Bill Cope together. They sat down and Mac relinquished the litter crew and gave to him. I think that we can probably still refine that. I need to talk to Bill Cope about this issue. You know, Mac has said that he's driving that Nissan van. We probably need to reevaluate that. There's no need for him driving a 15-passenger van when that could be used somewhere else for transporting, the inmates or whatever. I don't know. Let me check with that before we get to budget.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the other point we brought up was we were putting a part-time guy out just driving around looking for scouting places for them to go pick up.
Yeah, but that was Tommy. He's full-time.
Well, I thought that was I thought, maybe that you might be correct. I thought I understood that's what the part-time.
No, sir, the part-time position we have not filled.
That's not
Okay,
filled.
okay, all right.
Tommy's the one that drives around, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let me just ask a question. Do we need Tommy to do that? Or could somebody from the workhouse do that? And that way they have 100% responsibility for that litter crew operation?
What do you think, Mike?
Can they do it? Yes. They're trained people to work inside the building to do their law enforcement side of their work. And so they have to spend more money on those people, and it's a higher salary. Tommy has similar training where he can deal with workhouse inmates, but he's not trained to work inside. So I would say the way we're doing it is a cheaper personnel than they could come up with.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I just had to ask a question. All right. We have had a motion, I believe. I don't think we had a second. Oh, I thought maybe nobody made the first. Okay. We need a motion to accept this one of 5 sanitation and education budgets with
Motion to accept.
with the amended price. Was that a motion? Okay. We need a second.
Second.
Got it. Rachel?
Commissioner P,
No.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris. No. Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Passes.
All right. I believe the next one is convenience centers.
That is correct. Convenience center is the larger portion of all the budgets. If you'll go to line item 147, that's the drivers and the convenience center coordinator, all their salaries combined. 149 is the convenience center employees, and what we're asking there is to add 5 more additional part-time people than what we try to run 40. So we're asking for 45. And then you have the benefits and stuff that goes along with all that.
Mac, did you just say you were adding 5 part-time
Yes.
or full-time?
No, part-time. All the convenience center attendants are part-time.
Okay.
What that would do is always in the past, we've tried to run as lean as we can, and we've outgrown being able to do that. So our busier centers, like Rockvale, or not Rockvale, but Rock Crusher, which is on the south side of town, Walter Hill on the north side of town, Almaville out on the west side of town, those currently on Tuesdays and Wednesdays only have 1 employee there. And they're too busy for 1 employee to be able to keep up with it. So we'll add positions there. Weekly Lane and Sand Hill will add a person at each one of those as well. And then Rockvale, once it gets done, then we'll have to add some people there. Leanna the same way.
Well, the reason I'm questioning this is we have been looking at expanding hours and making these convenience centers convenient. To be able to do that, Chairman Cush actually asked me to talk to Williamson and Wilson County, and I have. And just looking at some of the things they do and the hours that they operate, we would have to expand our hours quite a bit to be able to come up to some of the standards that they're having as far as convenience for their people in the county that are using it. So I kind of question if 5 is going to be enough if we decide we want to expand those hours this year. I know we're looking at, the bids we've got on the ROS, but, that's going to be a little while away. Have you and the mayor sat down and talked about hours of operation for this coming year?
Yes, sir, we have, but the new hours of operation are not in this budget. You know, we will have to look at building convenience centers. We don't know what the cost is going to be, so we didn't put any funding in there for that. Once all of it starts is when we'd go back and try to add funding. We don't know what the cost would be.
Well, I'm talking about the cost if the current convenience centers were, instead of being closed on Mondays and half a day Sunday, if they were open, say 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is basically what these other counties are doing. Maybe that's something we ought to look at to make it convenient. I'm getting tired of constituents calling me and telling me it's an inconvenient system.
Chairman P., I went over, Steve and Lisa and I went over his budget yesterday, and I asked him to reach out to Mrs. Zion, Nancy Zion, I believe, Mac, at Williamson County. We have 14 convenience centers. They have 12, and they have, their hours is probably where we would like to be. They're open 7 days a week. They make it convenient for their citizens in Williamson County. They're open from like 7 to 5 Monday through Friday. On the weekends, they're open 7 to 6, something like that on the weekends. And they only have 45 people, so I asked him to reach out to her to find out how they do it, what they pay, et cetera, and report back to us. Of course, that was just yesterday, and we'll try to wrap this up before it gets to Budget Committee, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Okay, so Mayor, you just said that they use 45 people.
Yes, sir.
You just said you want 45 people, but then he got nothing to do with what we're going to do with the convenience centers.
That's correct. Nancy and I were in a Zoom meeting today, and I told her that I would be calling to talk to her and Ted. Ted is her guy that takes care of the daily operations. So she's getting prepared for our conversation, but we've not had it about this yet. She's just aware that I'm coming to ask the questions.
Do we know if Nancy's people are part-time or full-time?
They're part-time.
Okay. All right.
They do have a full-time education person.
That is correct.
All right, Mac, if you want to continue on with your line items.
Line 307, you'll see a pretty good reduction there. That's the communication system that we talked about last month and y'all voted on, so we're in the process of making that happen. And then there's line 338, you can see a pretty good sized jump there. Our Mac and Nashville contract on working on our trucks, you know, that all went way up. So that's been reflected there. Diesel fuel right now is down a little bit, but it's on its way back up, so we decided we need to leave that alone. Right now our diesel fuel bill is running somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 a month. 4 years ago it was $25,000 a month. 418, that's another expense for the working on the trucks and the parts, so that's gone up. Lubricants, 433. We've increased that just a little bit. Line 418, motor vehicles, that's actually a reduction, but what that is this year we purchased 2 roll-off trucks, and next year what we're requesting is 1 front-loader truck. And then 724, that's the number we had in this current budget to work on convenience centers. We've left that number in there. It's not going to be enough money to do what we need to do on the centers. We'll have to wait till we receive bids and know how much money we need. So there's no need in asking for money that we're not even have an idea of what it's going to be. Any questions on that?
Mac, you're up 74,000 from last year.
Mm-hmm.
1.97% increase, including this anticipated increase in medical costs.
Mm-hmm. Most of the cost up in this budget is to work on the trucks and employees. Or we're adding some employees, part-time employees.
And you have the anticipated cost of medical benefits, that increase in here, because you're only up 2% despite anticipated 10% increase in
Right, the part-time employees don't get any medical. That's just full-time. But yes, that number came from finance.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, you are recognized, Chair.
there's a lot of questions in here I have, and I'm not prepared on some of the stuff. I need a little bit more. Is there any, I would like to make a motion to defer this budget to next month.
Second that.
All right. I would be curious as to if that meets the mayor's schedule.
Well, we've got some big ones coming. We've got sheriff's budget. We've got EMS budget. We could do it. Yes, sir. We can work that in if that's the will of the committee.
Yeah.
We'll find a time.
Do you
And of course, schools is always last.
you want to how do you attempt to eat the elephant? Are you want to itemize your questions or your line items?
Well, I won't, Mayor, we talked about him talking to Nancy. So I think that will clear up some stuff right there for me, because I think we're way off on what you want and what Mac wants. Because if we're talking about 45 employees or workers, and then Mac's saying that ain't going to come very close to doing, that's a pretty big thing to me. And another thing that I'm concerned with is we have these RFPs going on, and some of these, there's some things that we could look at in there as well that would affect Mac's budget immensely.
Well, Mac just presented his budget to me yesterday, and of course we were trying to streamline and get things up, and we threw it on the SharePoint today. So probably you haven't had ample time to, he's got a large budget. There's several. I don't mind working with you all. Mac and I'll work together if you want to defer. I don't know if y'all looked at it overnight or since this morning when it went on. You didn't put that on until this morning, did you? Or you put it on yesterday?
No, it went on today.
Or it went up today? Okay, so I don't know who all had time to look at it, but
This budget, when the mayor and I talked yesterday, is if we don't make any changes, RFP-wise, anything else, that's what this budget is. If all that changes, then that's a whole different ballgame.
Of the five, and I could answer my own question if I thumb through this. Is this of the five, which is the largest?
This one.
This one. Okay. All right.
The convenience center budget is the largest, and then the landfill operation budget is the next largest.
Okay. All right. We've got a motion and a second to defer. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, one comment, please.
Yes, sir.
If you would, just check your math on this budget. I'm not computing the increases of substantial amounts, maintenance for one thing on heavy equipment, and the increase. I'm not seeing the decrease to balance out the increases. Just double check the math, please.
Okay.
before the next conversation or next month.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm causing any inconvenience, I just feel like I need more than 15 minutes to look over this budget.
No, it's duly noted. I'm in agreement. And one comment in regards to the RFPs coming in. Somebody mentioned the RFPs. We're certainly going to be having interviews with the 9 candidates over the next couple of months. But again, whichever direction or multiple directions we go with these potential candidates, in my head and from my gut, it would be at least 12 months before some kind of dirt is being scratched somewhere at a minimum. That is my guess. That is just a guess. So, a budget that we're approving now to go into effect, I think we're going to be through the majority of that budget for the 2021 year before anything is decided on how Mac's department is, if it changes at all, is going to be impacted. So I just wanted to throw that out. I wish things could happen overnight, but I don't really foresee that to be a real life scenario.
Are we just postponing this budget, or are we going to postpone the rest of Mac's budgets and do it all at one time?
Yeah, Rachel had the same question. We might as well. My opinion is
You're supposed to do them, postpone them all.
my opinion is we just postpone the remaining 4 and just look at them all the next time we meet. Because I don't know that one stands without the others. I don't know. You tell me.
Well,
We can look at the other ones tonight if you want, and just hold the big one out. But
Hey, Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest doing is going through the budget, through the rest of his budgets, and then I will amend my motion to be which ones that I want to see deferred. If that's okay with y'all.
that's fine with me. So you're amending your motion to just clarify that right now you are deferring the fiscal year budget worksheet for, let me make sure I'm on the right page.
Convenience centers.
Convenience center. All right. Do you want to amend your second, whoever that was?
That was me, and as long as he and I are thinking along the same lines, I'd like to add the solid waste to that one, though. Because I've still got questions about how the workhouse and he are going to work out in the future.
Okay.
The sanitation education, that's the one you're speaking of.
Right.
Yeah, so then I guess we would need a motion to amend that one as well, Chairman P. So let's talk about this, guys. Do we want to go through the 5, or do we want to just defer all 5? Defer all 5? Okay.
Good with that.
Okay. Chairman P., did you hear that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Are we all good?
Just might I just let's consider we have to rescind a duly voted approval of 116. We've approved 116. The one that Chairman just asked that it be deferred as well. So how do we?
Yeah, legally, I don't know how we address that. I guess we'll just defer it, and then we'll see if Nick comes a-calling. Huh? Yeah, past 2 to 5.
I mean,
Well,
Mr. Chairman, you can send that on the budget when it gets there. I can talk. I can bring up my concerns there. Whichever is easiest for the mayor to deal with is fine with me.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to his discretion.
all right. We could defer the other 4 and just leave it standing, like Max says.
I prefer that we push the one we voted on to budget. I'd like to hear the 2 no votes further conversations. Let's just take it up in budget.
Okay.
It's relatively small in comparison to the other four.
Okay. Did we get a motion and a second to?
We have a motion and a second to the first budget.
Okay.
This doesn't go to budget this week.
No, sir.
So we don't need to we don't need to rescind any motion? We can go ahead and start a new motion? Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, and from a timing standpoint, you two are okay? All right, so the motion, as I understand it, or what needs to be the motion is, we're going to defer the remaining 4 solid waste budgets. And not that it has to be part of the motion, but the one we've already approved is going to continue on. Okay, so would somebody just restate that motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to defer the last 4 budgets until the next meeting for Public Works. And then
I'll say,
Yeah, or if we have a special solid waste meeting before that, do you think we could do it then?
I'll say the next meeting.
Next meeting, okay. And I need a second.
second.
Okay. P's agreed, okay. All right, Rachel, thank you.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right, so now you are taxed with the assignment to go through these remaining 4, make sure you have all your questions ready so we can expedite the process next meeting. All right, Mac, what else?
I'm looking, and I can't find it in my calendar. I'm not sure when the solid waste budgets actually go to Budget Committee. Commissioner P., do you know when that might be?
I don't.
I'm not even sure it's next month. I don't think it is.
Okay. Well, this committee will get our questions and comments to you as soon as possible, so we don't delay that any further. Okay. Rachel says those are likely in May. All right.
So as soon as I see it, I'll send it to you, Mac.
Thank you, sir. I have it somewhere. I just couldn't find it right off.
And
All right. Mac, anything else you have?
I don't think unless there's questions.
Any updates?
My oldest daughter is eloping in May, so.
Eloping
maybe,
in May?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
In Arizona.
Oh, no.
There you go.
congratulations.
Thank you, sir. So, as Ted Beatty would ask, are you adding a plate or throwing away a plate? We're adding a plate.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, sir, we are finished. Thank you. Let's go to Rebecca, or really the RFP is on the next item. I don't know if Rebecca I don't think she's joined us virtually, but I'll give you a quick update. You should have received a spreadsheet this morning. I don't know if it's on is it on the SharePoint? Okay, it is on SharePoint. Yeah, under Rebecca. And you will see, I believe, 9 vendors. And you will also see that the top of the headings are interactive community education, collection, processing, transportation, disposal, landfill reclamation. And then she has X'd under those columns which of these vendors have shown interest in one or more of those topics. Some 1 or 2, some all. So our next step would be, other than reviewing the literature that they sent with their RFPs, we need to go ahead and schedule interviews either virtual or live, with these 9 vendors. Rebecca and Rachel have put together 4 or 5 potential dates that are available on the county calendar and Rebecca's calendar. And I want you to go ahead and pull your calendars and take a look. We have March 30th, March 31st, April 14th, and April 21 are as far as we've extended the view at this point. So look at those and tell me if any of those dates are good. And again, tell me what your availability would be. Can we do some, maybe start at early afternoon and do, maybe get 2 or 3 done at a time? Assuming these are, let's say, 45-minute to an hour interviews that would include questions and answers. I'm just trying to think of a format that works for everybody's working schedule. We could do, 1 at a time. We could do 3 in an afternoon for 3 afternoons, whatever the case may be. So be thinking about what works best for your all's schedule. I can make it work for mine. So
What were the other dates? March 30, 31, and what else?
March 30, 31, and then jump to April 14 and April 21. And we have 9 proposals. Some, are just one is just looking at a processing alternative, and then there's a few of them that have 2 potential interest with us. Some would be landfill reclamation, and some would be the processing arm. The others are multiple technologies. So those will maybe take a little longer, and we may want to save some of those bigger ones to the last, just so we can practice up on our questions and negotiating skills. So,
are we talking about us going over the books first, or going over the books with the people here, or what are we talking about?
It's a great question. I think we need to be well informed through their books and literature first, which I would suggest you take a book a day or whatever and go through their literature, become familiar, highlight, write in the margins things that you want to question. And then when we have the opportunity to meet that group live or virtual, we are better prepared to discuss. I want to be as intimate knowledge-wise before we meet these people for the first time.
So you are saying 2 separate events. One for us to go over the material, once for us to meet the people.
Yeah. And I'm counting on you guys to do a lot of that research on your own, then we can come together and discuss, build a list of questions and things like that. But again, the questions need to be fairly consistent with all the applicants. But certain things we'll need to question what their intent is. I'm sure there's some things we won't quite fully understand that we'll need to question their intent or the end result.
Mr. Chairman, so are these 4 days a combination of us reviewing these booklets or these presentations, and then the other 2 or 3, or expanding them to include other days?
That's a great question. Here's what we could do. These first 4 dates, we could use these 4 dates as a combination of a special solid waste committee like we've always had in the past, and prep the 9 booklets, right? And perhaps we could even have a live or virtual presentation by one or more vendors, perhaps even in the April slots, beginning in the April slots. So it just depends on how fast or how many questions we have on the 9 booklets that we review. So I guess the question would be, if we could get through the booklets in March maybe we could have 2 solid waste special committees and get through the booklets, then we could start interviewing in April. I'm talking out loud. You guys, this is our committee, so.
Let's say those dates again.
I think that's crowding it to do it in 2 days.
Right.
2 meetings.
Yeah.
Which part? Us getting prepped and looking at the books together?
It's a lot of material to go over if you actually go over it.
And I definitely want to, I agree with you, and I definitely want this body's, I don't want to depend, I want to be able to bounce questions. I want y'all to tell me what I've missed. I definitely want to go over these books as a committee, of course, in the sunshine. Yeah. So if that takes us 2 meetings or 4, sure. I want to exhaust, I need y'all's wisdom before I meet with a vendor.
Okay. Well, then why don't we just concentrate on doing a solid waste subcommittee meetings to go through the books. Once we're done, then we'll schedule interviews.
And that may, after 2, we may decide, hey, we're ready to go, but it may take all 4.
Yeah, 2 or 3, whatever it takes.
When will we see, and Wayne and I were discussing this, Wayne Blair and I, when will we see the costs that I think have been privileged information, or like some of the pages that have cost forms are blank? When do we understand the money side to this?
To my understanding, it's once Becky goes through all the bids, then we will be given the envelopes with their sealed, with their monetary amount, to my understanding.
And is that information is privileged currently, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Why would it be privileged since the bids have been received, opened, and accepted, and we're not, I don't think we're receiving any more bids, correct?
We are not.
So I don't understand why we wouldn't get that now.
The RFPs were open, but just like Mr. Broden of the news media said, he's going to file a public information request, but we got a reading on that because it's still, we accepted the RFPs and took them under advisement. In that period of time while they're under advisement, she's putting the matrix together. We didn't want that being released until this committee makes the decision. Then and only then, if whoever they choose to go with, will that information become public. Just trying to be fair as far as somebody finding out what somebody else is quoted.
Well, I guess my point was that since that process is closed, they would not be able to come in and say, oh, by the way, we change our bid to this because it's already final.
Yeah, but I think as you start peeling the onion back on each one of these proposals, you're going to find different variations of, say one of them decides that they want to come in, and I've noticed on this sheet right here, I highlighted, there's 1, 2, 3 that says they want to come in and reclaim the current landfill, our current landfill. So what does that cost? And then they may say that we want to take all the tires that are in there and grind them up in a tire grinder. Instead of you paying $300,000 a year, we'll take all the tires and put them into a fancy tire grinder. And we can do that right now. It doesn't take that long it won't take 2 years to build that. So each one of those categories are going to have to be priced. They may choose to take the glass and crush it here instead of us having to pay to take it somewhere else. This is all new to us, None of us have ever gone down this road before, so we'll have to feel our way through this process.
And I understand that. I guess what I have been used to in the past when we bid schools, when those bids came to the school board, they were opened and it all became public information at that time.
Yeah, the difference is, Wayne, is schools are hard bid.
That is a hard bid. That's correct.
I mean, it's so many bricks, so many windows, so many stories, and everybody's bidding the exact same amount. This deal is all over the board. These are all like design build, right?
Yeah.
So there is no one looks like the other.
Okay.
It's all custom.
Sure.
Right. So there's a lot of it's a movie. It's very fluid. It's very fluid. Unlike
Just wanted to make sure I was on the same page with everybody.
Yeah. So Matt, come on up. So I think the consensus is let's read the documents. We'll go over the documents together as a team and put our questions together. And then when we're comfortable, we'll reach out for interviews, whatever month that is.
The intent of this process is for us to look and see what the options are. These proposers have, they've sent us the paperwork. We can do whatever they want. To be able to look at it with price not being a factor, just look at it what we think may be best for us. Then we look at the price and may change our mind. But the first option is look to figure out what is the best options available to us. We may choose that we can't afford those, but the price is not a part of that decision until afterwards.
Thank you, Mac.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you can answer this or not. I was going back looking at our notes, and we had a company from Brussels.
That's correct.
Now, they sent in R5. Is it in here?
Yes, sir. It's actually the one that was submitted from North Dakota.
We're good with them then.
Yes, she or he's the representative of that company from Brussels.
Okay.
Is there any proprietary information in those sealed bids that we're obligated to keep confidential until I'm waffling with Wayne.
I'm trying to read one tonight and glean as much, and Becky's not here to answer that question. I would say that there probably is. One composting facility our company may want to put in a state-of-the-art composting facility, where another one just takes it down to Ashland City and just dumps it and flips it. So
yeah,
those numbers are bound to change, though, because like we said, this ain't a hard bid. This is something we're going to be negotiating with, so those numbers could be fluctuating a lot.
Yes, sir.
Phil, to answer your question, I haven't looked at all the information, but from my background in history with RFPs, if somebody has a proprietary system, typically they will highlight that in bold letters. Yeah, and we may even have to sign a document that says we will not divulge any proprietary information. So if there is, we should know about it very clearly in the document.
To state to the public, we haven't seen any cost. This committee has not seen any of the envelopes.
I haven't seen any.
They've been under advisement of our consultant, Caldwell.
Right.
Correct. So they're secured and safe and
they're
not
in a mayonnaise jar under somebody's porch somewhere. Yeah. I have not. So, getting back, yes, Shanto.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So you want us to get through all of the 9 books here, and then after that we get together and come up with the question? Or
yes, sir.
Okay.
So the question then, going back to my original question, let's look at these dates and let's establish a a solid waste advisory special committee like we've done in the past, and we will focus on going through these documents. Now, if you'll notice on your spreadsheet, there are 5 companies that only have a couple of X's in the columns. We may want to start with those because that will be a more of an abbreviated read, in my assumption.
Right.
So we might be able to knock out 2 or 3 of those a night perhaps. So as far as, let's agree on a date, and then I'm going to assign some order of attack. So
The only time we can meet is March 30th. There's nothing in between there? I know that the 30th.
We don't necessarily need Becky to look at.
29th through the 3rd, I will not be available. It's also the spring break for all the schools, so, which I don't think that matters here, but
Right.
it does to me, but
Yeah.
those are only, other than that, I'm open for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, let me make this comment. This has been a long road, right? We don't need to be in a rush now to try and get to a finish line. We still need to be very diligent. We need to be very thorough. I know we're all anxious to get in and negotiate with somebody, but we're not under the gun.
But it's easy to get caught up in the rush of our budget that we think that we have to keep up with our budget process and get something done by June 30th, which is not the case, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, it's not the case, right. So, I mean, my own adrenaline is starting to build a little bit because I'm excited that we've got to this point, but we need to take a deep breath, right, and make sure we diligently and strategically go through all these at a
25-year commitment.
I don't want to have a meeting unless everybody can be here. I need his wisdom.
Right,
So
exactly.
if one of us can't make it, then I would prefer we wait till April 14th. You decide which ones we knock off, the ones that have one or twos.
Okay.
Starting on the 14th, is that okay with y'all? It work for you, Rachel?
Okay, so 14th and 21st of April are okay for everybody?
14th and the 21st.
Okay, and what time of day? 5:30, 5 o'clock? I forget what time we usually meet.
5:30 is the best I can do.
Okay, 5:30 it is. Okay. I'm gonna assign, let's just start at the top and do Design This from Christiana, Tennessee. They have 2 items. Pratt Recycling, Conyers, Georgia, has 2 items. Rockwood Sustainable Solutions has 2 items. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Let's just complete the list. Waste Away has 1 item. Let's make it number 4. And then we'll skip down to Waste Reevaluation out of North Dakota as number 5. And then going back up to the top, we have Republic Services as number 6. We have Straightway Enterprises of Columbia as number 7. And that should leave Waste Alliance out of Murfreesboro as number 8. And Waste Management, Lewisburg, Tennessee as number 9. All right. So let's focus on 1, 2, and 3 the best we can, and then 4, 5, and 6. No, 6 will be probably an evening in itself. Okay. Design This, number 1. Pratt Recycling, number 2. Rockwood Sustainable, number 3. Waste Away, number 4. Waste Reevaluation from Stanley, North Dakota, number 5. Those 5 only have 1 to 2 checks on their RFP technologies. Those will probably fill up those 2 days. From there, you get into the multiple faceted vendors And they may be one a day. I mean, seriously. And we'll schedule that after April. We'll see where we stand. But that would be the 6, 7, 8, and 9. So Republic Services number 6, Straightway Enterprises number 7, Waste Alliance number 8, and Waste Management number 9. Those are all multiple across the board technologies.
1 through 5, we think we can knock out on April 14th and 21st.
I bet we could. I bet we could. So Rachel, will you send out a reminder, a meeting request? All right.
Point of clarification on Commissioner Dodd's comment. Prior to the meeting, I asked him how many booklets he had gotten through, and I casually mentioned I did not see any financials as far as dollars amount. So there was no deliberation between Commissioner Dodd and I, just two innocent, as far as I'm concerned, innocent questions. In
Duly
case
noted.
someone's listening.
Agreed.
Duly
Agreed.
noted.
No deliberation. We asked if we had adequate information, in my opinion.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Business? Any other? Okay. I do want to give Mr. Piercy, Commissioner Piercy, an update. I know that we are looking at land for Walter Hill, right? Walter Hill? Yes. Yeah. There's a couple of pieces that have caught our eye, and we're still looking for some additional pieces of land to potentially move your recycle center. So it's moving fairly quickly, actually. So we have one hook on the line. We're looking for something else. So anything else, gentlemen? All right. We'll see you soon. Meeting adjourned.